Welcome back to the Bees K-Spine Community Credit Union pregame show. I'm sitting with A's minor league roving pitching instructor, Gil Patterson. Now, for those of us who don't know, Gil, what exactly does that job entail?
Dan, basically you have the 6 minor league teams we have, and you have a pitching coach for each team, and then you have one pitching coach that's kind of in charge of those pitching coaches, and that's what I do. I will visit all of our teams for 5 days, usually about 3 times a year, just to make sure that everything's going on the right way. Of course, with Waz here, I have to pay special attention to him.
All right. Now, what are some of the lessons or pieces of advice that you might share with the team specifically that you might have done the last 3 days?
Well, for the most part, I really like to observe a couple things. One is their performance. 2, on a serious note, is watching John. I coached John when he first signed with the A's many years ago, and he was really a pleasure to be around then as a pitcher, and really the pitchers here are very fortunate to have him. But Dan, I really watch John a little bit, and then since this isn't my first rodeo, sometimes there is a little touch points that I can get to and go over to maybe enhance a little bit. Sometimes a fresh eye coming in with John, seeing them every day, sometimes a fresh eye does help.
Well, since you're bringing up John Wasden so much, I've heard a lot of good things from the pitching staff themselves about Coach Wasden. Why do you think it's worked out so well so far?
Well, I think because he can relate to them. He was a hard worker. It's not that God didn't bless him. He did. He pitched for almost 10 years in the major leagues. But it wasn't always easy. And he started and he relieved. And he wasn't the number one guy all the time. Sometimes he was. And so he has faced a lot of adversity in his major league career. He was lucky enough not to be injured very often, which sometimes guys have to go through, but he has pitched with some pain. And I think all of those things, good learner and now a good teacher.
Well, I would imagine that since he's now a good teacher, he's probably learning from someone like you, and you have a lot of experience as well. You've dealt with a lot of adversity too. How does that help you in your job?
Well, it does, because sometimes when you say I've been there or I know what you're going through, a lot of times you don't. And just like you mentioned, Dan, I have. I was a number one pitching prospect at one point. I went to go into the bullpen. I've had 8 surgeries. So all those experiences help. Being a major league pitching coach, being a rookie ball pitching coach, and being a coordinator before, again, and coaching really at all levels, it allows you to, and at 56 I don't remember everything, but I do remember enough that I know sometimes the problems that guys had at each level, and sometimes you can go back on stories and share.
Well, just a few more questions for you, Gil. Now that you mentioned that, not that you'd ever bypass Waz in any way, but do you ever go up to pitchers specifically, especially at this young level, and talk to them about the adversities they face?
I do, but pretty much whatever I say, I end up telling John that I say, and vice versa. When he goes to do something, make a little change, as a coordinator, I need to know that. And for the most part, there usually isn't too many things that not only John but any pitching coach we have, because my biggest challenge to them is get them better physically and mentally, and so with that progression, you need everything you say to pitchers to have everyone on the same page. You want the pitcher to have input. I'm not sure if you talk to Keith Lippman. Keith will be in Kane County and he'll come back here again. What a great man to work for he is, and he just put all of us through this touch point scenario this spring where you get the player involved in the decisions in his career, and they feel more a part of it, and it's one of those, how can I help you? And sometimes if it's, I don't know how you can help, then we'll step forward with stronger approaches, and then sometimes it's, I think I want to do this, we'll go ahead and help them with that.
Now, I have spoken to Keith before, and it was very insightful, of course. Here's a rumor that I've heard. I've always heard that the A's have a really good pitching depth in their A's minor league system. Now, short of you just saying, yes, that's true, why is it true?
Pretty much because of me being here was probably the biggest answer. No, really, the very bottom line is scouting. And I'm not going to say player development can't help. They can help. They do help. But ultimately, it's the player. And if the scouts get the right player physically, And, you go back to that mental approach. There are guys where you're watching a game and you say, boy, his stuff's just okay. But somehow, some way, it's almost like Murphy and Granero. They don't have the best stuff in this league, but they sure are pitching like they do. And it's a combination of their ability, God-given, and also about their strong mental approach. Go ahead.
Well, that brings up one last question I have for you. I'm actually glad that you brought them up. You got a chance to watch Drew Granero pitch yesterday, and you probably heard of Murphy's 13 strikeout game and the year they've had so far. Do you ever allow yourself to get impressed, or do you try and hold back because you've seen a lot of baseball?
No. I mean, when people pull up their type of numbers, it is impressive. I mean, last year when I came here, we had Hasbrock, we had Bowman out of the bullpen, we had Walls and Trainin at the end of the year, and some impressive numbers they put up. So Griffin early in the year and Brown, and it was when they, if you're ever going to get moved, those are the numbers. You tell the pitchers it's not all about numbers, and in a sense, it is and it's not. If in your head the only thing you're worried about is, all right, I got to go 7 innings tonight, give up 2 hits, walk 1 and strike out 6, you're probably not going to do it. It's one pitch to the next. But as you do the one pitch at a time, those numbers hopefully accumulate to what Drew and what Sean have done this year. And yes, I am very happy and impressed by it.
Well, Gil, we certainly appreciate your insight, and thank you for joining the pregame show.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dan.
All right, we'll send it back to News Radio 1490, KBUR, and KBUR.com.